Thank you very much indeed, John, and good evening, everybody. Yes, I am English. When I retired from Southampton several years ago now, I was recruited by Berlin to go and work part-time with them. Unfortunately, of course, I haven't been there for now, nearly 9 months because of the virus. Anyway, I want to talk to you a little bit this morning, today about allergy. So what is allergy? To me, it's something that makes happy people miserable. But actually, from a scientific viewpoint, our immunology, our immune system makes mistakes, and sometimes it does. But let's look very briefly at the immune system. It's like an army, and it has many functions. It has housekeeping functions, for example. Do you realize during your lifetime, cell divisions go wrong? How many do you think? Approximately 1 million. And the immune system clears them up. What a fantastic job it does. It also guards against aggressors. There's a certain virus, and yes, that is coronavirus, that it tries to fight. And obviously, it's doing a very good job there. Bacteria. This is the yellow bacterium that causes Staphylococcus aureus, that causes boils and pimples. It also fights fungi, and it fights parasites, which are big and very difficult to deal with. And it is in fact the fighting of parasites where the immune system goes wrong. Well, it's not, it just recognizes pollens, house dust mite, and allergens in general, as though they were parasites. So let's first of all look at how does the immune system deal with a parasite? Well, here is a mucosal surface. There's little cells here sitting on the surface, and nerves down here, and in comes a parasite. So how does it deal with it? Well, the first time it comes in, look at all these cells here, looking at it, saying, hey, there's something foreign coming in here. What are we going to do about it? We've got to make our battle plan. And the battle plan here is to make these antibodies, these Y-shaped antibodies. And these are what our immune system does when we become sensitized to a parasite. I have to introduce you to two cells before we get started. The first is the mast cell. Now, I've worked with this so long that it's really become a friend. It's a mischievous little fellow. And his job is to release histamine to make the environment hostile for the parasite. Of course, you know histamine is involved in allergy as well. And here we sensitize it. Now, this is the trigger. So when the parasite comes in, bang, out goes the mast cell and the histamine there. The mast cell does something else. It recruits a good friend of his, the eosinophil. And I call this cell the hired assassin. What its job is to do is to kill the parasite that comes in. But it also damages the local environment and causes inflammation. So let's look at these in the cartoon there. The defense is ready. You can see the mast cells are armed here, ready. First of all, stimulating the nerves with the histamine, making you itch and scratch. This is what keeps a parasite out. They don't like itching and scratching. This is a mucosal surface, so we've got lots of stimulating of the mucosal surface, a runny nose, secretions in the linings of the lung, all destined to try and make a hostile environment for the parasite. But I said the mast cell also recruits its friend, as it does, and it brings in the eosinophil. And the job of the eosinophil is to kill, which it does. But it also damages the local environment. But sometimes It does exactly the same with pollen. Mast cells release their histamine. Eosinophils release all their nasty proteins and damage the environment, allergic inflammation. Whoops, we made a mistake. Oh dear, we got it wrong. But that is allergy. It's a parasite killing response gone wrong. And from parasites to pollen, we can use birch pollen. In the spring, you get the tree pollens like birch. In the summer, you've got the grasses, not the yellow flowers that everybody looks at. It's the grasses that use the wind to spread their spores. And in the autumn, we have fungal spores. In the winter, the house dust mite, the most common allergen indoors. And I will talk a little bit more about that later. And of course, there's allergy to our pets, usually the saliva, which they lick their coat, and then the dust of their saliva is just like a parasite saliva, and that makes us allergic. So today, allergy is increasing. If we start to look at it, asthma is up by 250%, allergic rhinitis, hay fever, by about 380, eczema over 200. So what's going wrong? 2 years ago, we hadn't got allergy. So why have we got it today? Well, obviously our genes aren't changing very much, but allergy is made up of only genes and environmental factors. And it is these, in fact, environmental factors that, in fact, we need to look at when we need to see, is allergy increasing? So here's our poor lady with her allergic rhinitis or hay fever. Allergy genes are in the middle, but we have all the other parts of the allergy jigsaw that we can look at. Indoor living, stress, hygienic lifestyle, new allergens, lots of things. Let's take these one at a time and see how things are going. First of all, our hygienic lifestyle. Today, we live in nice little houses and we have an allergy prone child with a very naive immune system. If we make it dirty, you educate the immune system and it learns to recognize the correct things and not make the mistakes. And we finish up with a non-allergic child. Just to look at this, I say, but education must take place very early in life. And you see that all the changes that occur, or the major changes, occur very early in life. So if we look at farming parents and non-farming parents, this is allergy in non-farming parents and in farming parents. The dirtier they are, the lower the allergy. Interesting, isn't it? Also, our hygienic lifestyle changes the bacteria in our intestine, and the lack of probiotic bacteria can be one factor that is a problem. So how do we get the gut pollinized? Well, we can do it in the environment, mother to birth, breastfeeding, contact with dirty hands, rather than absolutely spotlessly clean all the time. This happens less readily in a hygienic environment. So, gut in a hygienic environment, probiotic delayed. Number of bugs colonized, reduced. And the gut is colonized with bacteria that cause inflammation. So can we get rid of this? Can we comment? Yes, we can. We actually can use probiotics and commonly used but they can reduce allergy, particularly in babies and young children. And also, if they're given to the mother, it helps a great deal, and it reduces atopic dermatitis for up to 2 years. So even in the uterus, even that while the child is developing, you can influence what is growing in their intestine and help to reduce allergy later in life. What about our sedentary lifestyle and our diet? Well, sedentary lifestyle, yes, obesity increases allergy and asthma. Look at this, 1987, skin test positive. 1998, obesity doubles the risk of allergy now. And then what about the risk for asthma? Well, again, we have problems. What about diet? Now, this is how I would much like to prefer to be tonight, but unfortunately not so. We have to look at things like dietary fats, vitamin D, antioxidants, general ways in which we do. Omega-6 fatty acids, particularly in animal saturated fats, in margarine, that increases allergy. What will we do? Substitute omega-3, which are present in fish, linseed, canola, soybean, walnut. If you can get, so let's look at this. A addition of omega-3, 85% reduction in allergy. Isn't that amazing? Just something we're eating. And if we're looking at eczema as well, like 65%. Amazing just how our diet can influence our allergic status. So maternal omega-3 supplementation may decrease the risk in children that are born. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid, beta-carotene, anti-inflammatory effects can be useful. Vitamin D, certainly vitamin D deficiency with reduced sunlight increases allergy. In excess, of course, it may be toxic, so keep the balance right. Enough of food. What about stress? This is the thing that gets me. This poor lady, she's going to be suffering like heck. And it shows here, if you look at children from divorced parents, 19% allergic. If they come from a stable family, 6%. They think this is due to stress in children. And if the parental stress and tobacco smoke, again, they both increase allergy. But we'll look at tobacco smoke later. Mobile phones, yes, there's a wonderful series of papers looking at mobile phones and how they increase allergy by just causing stress. As you can see here, nasty. And laughter reduces the effects. Some lovely stories of how the brain actually secretes hormones which reduce the stress effects in the body. We know that listening to Mozart can reduce stress. But Beethoven, no. That tends, if anything, to make you more stressed. And lastly, kissing reduces stress, but better when you're listening to soft music. This was done in a lovely Japanese study where they looked at all of these factors. So stress certainly makes allergy worse by putting the whole body on alert, which is a form of immune tolerance. Indoor living. Yes. What about an indoor lifestyle? What about pollutants such as smoking? Our house dust mite. Let's look first of all at smoking. Does my mother smoking give me allergy? No smoker. Father smoked. Mother smoked. And I suppose this is the days when, of course, mother was at home all day, but father wasn't. But yes, they do. So smoking, what it is doing, it's irritating the linings of the nose and lungs and making them more porous to allergens. What about our friend, the house dust mite? Well, his Latin name is Dermatofagoides, skin eater. And what he does is lie in bed eating your skin scales. They're about 1/4 millimeter long. They live off scales, mainly are partly digested, and they thrive in humid environments. They're found in bedding and carpets, soft furnishings, clothing. And people allergic, it's not the mite, but probably their droppings, but that's irrelevant. But I want to show you something which will probably alarm you a little. What a study that was done, 14 years ago now. They seeded house dust mite into 3 types of rooms. In the cold, unheated room, after 3 weeks, all dead. In the centrally heated lounge, increased by 400%. How much do you think it's going to be increased in the warm, humid bed? More than 400? 1,800%. In fact, covering your bed up, shutting the windows is absolute heaven for these little fellows. They breed like crazy. So what is best to do is probably learn from the Italians, open the windows, turn the radiator off in the room, put the things out to air. There are certain controls for house dust mite, but they don't work very well. Only stringent controls are useful. And when we look, what about Teddy? Because we know he has house dust mite. So what can we do with him? We can first of all pop him into the freezer. That helps. Or boil him. Oh, problem solved. So the other thing now we have to think of is cat allergy. Now, interestingly, with cat allergy, the more cats you have, you can become tolerant. Now, isn't it interesting that with cat allergic people, a student may not appear allergic, go off to university, come back during a vacation, and suddenly their nose starts streaming. What has happened is they have lost their tolerance while they've been away. So you get tolerance by getting more cats. The alternative, of course, is to get rid of the cat and not have cats at all. So what about global warming? Now, we were talking a little bit earlier about global warming and what its effect on the environment. And when you start to look at it, there's a 40% increase in CO2 in the last 200 years. And we start to look at increase, 450% increase in the number of pollen grains. They're 25% bigger, therefore more allergenic. The average length of the growing season is longer, more problems. Birch trees, which are one of the worst pollens for the spring, are spreading further and further north each year. So there's an earlier start to the pollen season and a longer thing. So if we start to look at the graphs, they're higher and longer, higher, longer. So the environment is causing a problem. So keep the windows closed, especially at night, if you have pollen sensitivity, because pollen descends during the night. The alternative solution is, of course, wearing that. Outdoor pollution. If we start to look at what has changed over the last 200 years, well, things have changed. quite a bit. Urbanization and pollution increases allergy absolutely dramatically. And if we look at those two, they are some of the worst. Just to show you a picture, this is a pollen grain. If it comes from an environmental area close to a road, look at that. Particles of dirt and dust all over. And if we look at sulfur dioxide, it increases allergy by about 15%. Ozone by almost 10%. But we talk about diesel fumes and how bad they are. Over 30%. Diesel fumes, the big particles of diesel fumes, irritate the mucosa, irritate the lungs, and make it much more sensitive to all the pollens we see. So, what about new allergens? And if we look at new allergens, kiwi fruit. So many people are getting allergic to kiwi fruit. It's absolutely crazy. Interestingly, kiwis often cross-react with birch pollen. So somebody who's birch pollen sensitive may well have a food allergy to kiwi in exactly the same way. And what about things brought in? Ragweed is a very aggressive weed which has a very aggressive pollen. And that started in Hudson, Germany, and slowly it's spreading all over Europe. And soon, people in Europe will be ragweed sensitive. 50% of them. It is so bad. In America, it is very, very bad. So, allergic rhinitis was uncommon 200 years ago. But today, almost 40% of the population suffer from allergy. So that leaves us with one final thing. And that is, if we start to look at the map of the world and start to look at where is allergy worst? Interesting, United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand. There can only be one reason for this, and that is the major determinant for developing allergy is speaking English. And vielen Dank und gute Nacht.